Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is Senate Bill 19. We'll open the hearing on it. Revisor Wagner, would you brief us on this, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Wagner from the Revisor's Office. Good afternoon, committee. Senate Bill 19 is a highway naming bill that designates a portion of U.S. Highway 77 as the Corporal Allen E. Oatney and SP4 Gene A. Myers Memorial Highway. This highway will begin on U.S. Highway 77 at the western city limits of Blue Rapids, then go west and end at the eastern city limits of Waterville. Normal requirements apply that the signs won't be placed until the Department of Transportation has received sufficient funds to cover the cost of those signs, plus 50%, an additional 50% to cover future maintenance. Section 2 of the bill redesignates that same portion of US Highway 77. It's already named the Prairie Parkway. It's a pretty long stretch of highway. We're just renaming that segment of it. It's pretty common in some of these highway bills where there's been a very long highway designated and then a new one created. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Committee, are there questions for the revisor? Seeing none, thank you. Our first proponent we have, Senator Elaine Bowers. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, or good afternoon, and to the committee too. And it's awkward to have folks behind me, so sorry, I don't want to ignore you. And this is a bill from last year. The folks who are on the committee may remember it. It did pass unanimously at the Senate, so I can give you that timeline too. So this is Senate Bill 19, and I do have folks from Marshall County who will chat a little more about the fundraising efforts and what they've done in the meantime since we've heard this. So the revisor did a great job explaining it's a portion of highway connecting two cities, Waterville and Blue Rapids. And it was first brought to our attention with the former representative, Representative Panbacker, when we received a letter asking for this to happen. They had school kids lined up to help with the promotion and dedication of this stretch too. So it is honoring two young men, and were both killed in Vietnam, one in 69, one in 70. You'll see it's Corporal Allen Oatney and Sergeant Gene A. Myers, and this is what the highway will be named. Through this process, we've tweaked the names and gotten the abbreviations just right. So working with ks.gov was our beginning stages. The fundraising has been done. You will hear from Jerry and Janet on that they were aware of the costs. And I'm glad the revisor mentioned the Prairie Parkway. It was named in 1967, and you can see a little blurb from my intern who pulled that together. But there will be signs on each end of that as well as these two in the middle. So that takes care of the signs. Let's see, last year it passed 38-0 on February 18th, and then had a hearing here. And we went home where it didn't get out of your committee here on the House side, and it passed March 2nd on the Senate this year, 39-0, and it was on the consent calendar. There is something new in your packet that I want you to read at your leisure. It is from David Blatt. He was with Sergeant Myers, and what he referred to as the Big Red One. And if you can imagine, he was with Gene, who they called Spot. So you could see a freckled-faced Kansas boy who was a leader who took them under their wing, took the first shots and gave them time to pull themselves together. And I think this is really moving. And if you have a minute to read that, so you can see even 50 years later, he still thinks of that day. And I think that's a nice tribute to him. So I think at this time, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else to add. There's people from home who can talk about the particulars, and our Representative Mosher can pick up also. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there questions? Seeing no questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Now recognize Representative Alicia Mosher. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Prell. Vice Chairman Vice Chairman Delperdang, Ranking Minority Leader Helgerson, and members of the House Transportation Committee. I am Alicia Mosher, State Representative for House District 106 and resident of Marshall County, where the referenced highway naming venture in Senate Bill 19 will be realized. I testify today in support of Senate Bill 19, designating a portion of United States Highway 77 between Blue Rapids and Waterville to the honor of two local Vietnam veterans, Corporal Alan E. Oatney and Specialist 4th Class Gene A. Myers. I developed at a young age an appreciation for our nation's veterans and the price paid for freedom. My uncle and godfather was a medic in World War II. 2 of the 627 Kansas military lives lost in the Vietnam War were those of U.S. Army Corporal Alan E. Oatney of Waterville, Kansas, killed in action in Cambodia on June 22, 1970, and U.S. Army Specialist 4th Class Gene Allen Myers, also of Waterville, killed in action in South Vietnam on June 9, 1969. Senate Bill 19 commits to the honor of these young men a 5-mile segment of highway of U.S. Highway 77 between Waterville, Kansas and Blue Rapids, Kansas. I believe this tribute deserves the support of this body. Funding for signs marking the reference section of highway will be provided by the American Legion through private donations. We must not forget the sacrifice of more than 50,000 heroes of the Vietnam War, and specifically the sacrifice of these 2 young men from rural Kansas who gave their lives in answer to their country's call to duty. Their commitment to God and country is evident by the price they paid. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. I will stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Are there questions for the representative? Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your testimony. And this could be a question either for you or the senator that testified before, but there was, at least in the senator's testimony, there was some dollars brought up as far as the funding for this. Do you know, has the funding already come in? Is it available? Where that stands?
I thank you for your question, Representative Delperdang. I believe that the total funding is already in place, as the Marshall County veterans will update you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to Mr. Jerry Zayas, Mayor of Blue Rapids. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jerry Zayas. I'm the mayor of Blue Rapids, but more importantly, I'm the post-service officer of 169, Post 169 American Legion in Blue Rapids. I'm a 1980 graduate of the United States Military Academy, retired United States Army, the rank of colonel. When I was growing up, my dad was one of the first troops that went to Vietnam, and I think it's July of 1965. I was a little kid. November 1965, we had a telegram delivered to our house by a taxi driver. And in the telegram, it said your loved one was wounded in action in Vietnam. Good friend of mine, next door neighbor, he got a telegram, and his dad was killed in action, the Battle of Vai Drang Valley, one of the first major engagements in Vietnam. That affected me the rest of my life, especially when my dad went back to Vietnam in 1968, understanding that he had 7 kids stationed in Germany for 6 months after coming back from Vietnam the first time. And he was the only one in his unit that was a combat veteran of Korea and Vietnam, and he was told to go back to Vietnam again. And he went, and of course, nothing happened to him. He came back home. He's 94 years old, and he's at home. But he did teach me one thing. He said, Jerry, don't let them forget what these young men have done. And it motivated me the rest of my life. And so when we were first doing this highway naming bill, we were concentrating on Alan Oatney. Alan Oatney went to Valley Heights High School, one of the first ones to graduate from there. and he was killed in Vietnam. His brother, we have to see every day, works at the school, works at the nursing home, Jim Owney, who was here last year testifying. And in the process, we had everything written up until all of a sudden we ran into Donna Wilson, John Argenbright, and several of them from Waterville, and they said, what about Gene Myers? Well, he was lost in the shuffle. And he was from the town. And it made me think, this is the purpose of this. We want to name that highway so our children, when they go to school from both towns, will see the names of those two people and they will ask the question, why are they there? So my granddaughter, who goes to Valley Heights, will be able to look at me and say, hey, Grandpa, explain to me who they are. Well, those are heroes, and they are Kansas heroes. They gave their life serving their country when sometimes the country would turn their back on them. I ask you from the bottom of my heart, please consider this. It's very important to our two towns. It's important to our school district. And more importantly, it's important to our youth, our young people in Kansas. The American Legion, right now, we have raised enough funds to pay for this whole thing. We have $93,000 in a small town. The bill that they gave us was $4,500. So heck, why don't we make another road? You know, the people there in the community are all behind us, and the youth are all on board. They are giving their time and their effort to this. So with that, I stand for any questions about anything you have, and I thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Are there questions for Mayor Zayas? Seeing none, job well done.
Sir.
Next on my list, I have Captain Janet Zeus. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. I too am part of Post 169, and we're still breaking ceilings. I'm the only woman ever. So I bring a slightly different perspective to this, and those that have preceded me have done an excellent job. 51 years has passed. Most of our Legion members are Vietnam veterans. We all agree that this was an egregious war, and the treatment of our returning service members was as well. They did not receive the support or gratitude from our people at home, as was the norm for previous wars. I entered the service in the 70s, is when I was commissioned. At that time, I was not allowed to wear my uniform outside of military property because of the verbal abuse that we were still receiving. So, not only did these men give their lives, but the men that I served with in the Legion also lived through unacceptable treatment after the war. Our current generation does not have any idea what these service members endured in Vietnam or when arriving home. We must remember so as not to be caught in such a debacle again. Humans have short memories, and we need to be reminded. Naming this highway creates an opportunity for our communities to inform and remind the current generation of the true cost of their freedoms. It's no coincidence that this highway passes in front of our unified high school, Valley Heights. As a post-Vietnam veteran, I want to help right the wrong that I saw done to those back then. I want my grandchildren and the community's children to value the service of every veteran and be willing to serve if need be. I want Blue Rapids, Waterville, and the state of Kansas to be known for producing good service members, supporting service members, and caring for veterans. We are asking the Senate, we are asking the House to stand with us and pass the necessary bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Thank you, committee members. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Barbara
Yes.
Ballard.
Yes, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it very much. I would just like to address Ms. Ayer. Thank you so very much for your testimony. I also, when you said you were entered in 1970, and then you also said you're the only woman and still the only woman. Well, you know, March is Women's History Month. And I would say you made history and you continue to make history. But more importantly, you care a lot. My husband's in American Legion as well, so I'm familiar with it. But I just want to say thank you for your testimony, but also to recognize you for fighting the good fight and for making sure that people in your town are being recognized. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Committee, I'd bring your attention to written-only testimony from Dave Blatt. I have no other proponents. Does anyone else wish to speak as a proponent? Seeing none, we have no opponents listed and no neutral listed. Does anyone wish to speak as an opponent or a neutral? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill, almost made that a House bill, Senate Bill 19. And we'll move on to hearing on Senate Bill 26. Revisor Wagner, would you brief us, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 26 would designate a portion of K7 Highway as the Senator Bud Burke Memorial Highway. That portion of K7 will start from the junction of K7 and K10 in Johnson County and then go south on K7 to the junction of K7 with West Santa Fe Street. And same requirements to provide 100% of the cost plus 50% to cover future maintenance and answer any questions the committee has.
Are there any questions for the revisor? Seeing none, we'll move on with proponent testimony and recognize Representative or Mr. Brad Schupp. Almost demoted you there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could use a promotion, so I appreciate that. I'm Brad Smoot, and I'm appearing today in my own behalf rather than as a representative of someone else. But I am here in support of Senate Bill 26. The bill names Highway 7, as your revisor pointed out, or a portion of it, as the Senator Bud Burke Memorial Highway. This legislation was presented last year, passed the Senate 39-0 in Senate Bill 377, and was set for hearing in this committee the day COVID caused us all to go home. And so we're back again with Senate Bill 26, which again passed the Senate with 39 votes. Many of you may know or have known Senator Burke in his years in the Kansas legislature. He dedicated a lot of his life to service to this state and to the nation. And I thought I'd mention a few of those things that those of you who know him already know, and those of you who don't may be glad to know. Bud was a member of this body beginning in 1972. He then became a member of the Senate for some 20 years, where he was chairman of the Assessment and Taxation Committee. He was majority leader of the Senate, and then 2 terms as Senate president before his retirement. During those years, of course, he saw a lot of things accomplished here, including 2 highway plans, reappraisal and property classification, Kansas lottery, constitutional amendments also on liquor by the drink, and a variety of other things that you all do from day to day. Bud was also a service member, as you've heard from the previous bill. He was a fighter pilot. Bud was trained as an Air Force fighter pilot and later a carrier-trained naval aviator. He was a captain in Naval Reserves over in Johnson County and a commander of a NATO fighter squadron. Bud was a delightful person to be around, as many of you know. He had great skills and as a negotiator, as a leader. He had a demeanor that was just made for operation in the Kansas legislature. I think it's suitable from time to time for lawmakers to recognize one of their own for their accomplishments. Nobody knows as well as you do how much personal sacrifice goes into coming up here for months and months every year to serve the people of your district and the people of your state. And I think recognizing Highway 7, Kansas K7, at least a portion of it for Senator Bud Burke would be a suitable recognition. I note Bud's wife, Debbie Burke, has written a letter that reminds us that Bud actually got his start in politics being appointed to the Kansas Turnpike Authority, where he served as chairman for a while before he became a House member. Always a supporter of the Kansas highways, a great believer that the highway system was a big part of our future as a state. I know he would be very pleased to have his name on one of those highways. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to stand for questions, but I urge you to support naming the highway between K10 and the city of Olathe on Highway 7, the Bud Burke Memorial Highway. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman,
I'm sorry, I've got one.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
a little slow. Thank you. Thank you. Representative Barbara Ballard. I just want to thank Brad for bringing this bill on behalf of Bud Burke. You know, when I entered the legislature, Bud Burke was president of the Senate. And I had great success even in my first year passing my first bill. And Bud was very helpful to me, not only then, but throughout the time he was there. And if I was there today, I would be standing there testifying on his behalf because he is very deserving. And from a new legislative point of view, you always remember those individuals who were extremely helpful to you. So I will always remember Bud Burke. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Ballard. Does anyone else wish to speak to or ask a question of Mr. Smoot? See none, thank you.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
I neglected one thing. Attached to my testimony is a list of other former legislators, lobbyists, a few current lawmakers and state officials who also endorse the concept of Senate Bill 26.
It's quite a list.
Thank you.
Committee, I'd bring your attention to written testimony in support of House Bill 26 by Mrs. Debbie Burke. For your information, I have no other proponents listed. Does anyone else wish to speak as a proponent? I have no opponents listed and no neutral listed. Does anyone wish to speak on either? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 26. We'll now open the hearing on Senate Bill 68. Revisor Wagner, would you brief us, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, Senate Bill 68 would establish a fee on firefighter distinctive license plates. Current law already provides for these license plates for anyone who submits satisfactory proof that they are a firefighter. What the bill would do is create a new $10 firefighter training fee for those license plates on and after January 1, 2022, which that fee would apply with all other applicable license plate fees. This fee would then be deposited into a newly created firefighter training fund, which will be used to support honoring Kansas firefighters, training Kansas firefighters, or any general use that supports Kansas firefighters. And I would be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Revisor, so the firefighters already have their distinctive plate. This just adds the fee. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions for the revisor? Seeing none? Proponents, Mr. Adam Lesker. Sorry, I'm sorry, Representative Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I just thought of that after you already closed it. Is the fee, the $10 fee going to be a one-time? Because I believe those plates are, I mean, they get to keep those plates like till whatever. So is it a $10 fee when they get the plate, or is it a $10 annual fee?
It would be a $10 annual fee.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Mr. Lesker, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, it's my pleasure to be before you today. I am Adam Lesker of Federico Durst Consulting, here in support of Senate Bill 68. In 2004, the Kansas Legislature authorized the issuance of the firefighter distinctive license plate. The plate is available to approximately 16,000 volunteer and professional firefighters across Kansas. Currently, there are about 11,720 firefighter distinctive plates issued, each having paid the required fee to the Department of Revenue with no additional royalty fee attached to the benefit for this fire service industry. The fact that no additional fee is attached is somewhat unique to this group, because most of the distinctive license plates do have a royalty fee, as most of you know. The Kansas Firefighters Association has voted to support the provisions of Senate Bill 68 for the purpose of establishing the Firefighters Training Fund. The bill will allow a $10 fee to be charged at the time of purchasing and renewing the firefighter distinctive license plate going forward. The president of the Kansas Firefighters Association will testify shortly to provide more detail to the critical nature of the funding of a training program. That, in short, will benefit us all through the state of Kansas. I would add, Mr. Chairman, that if this bill sounds familiar, you did hear it last year. I didn't know that I'd be back this year with the same bill, but I am glad to be here. And it passed the Senate on the consent calendar. And Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to stand for questions at the appropriate time, and thank you, committee, for your time.
Are there questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now I'd recognize Mr. Kevin Flory, President of the Kansas State Firefighters Association. Welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thank you, committee members. My name is Kevin Flory. I'm the president of the Kansas State Firefighters Association. As Adam mentioned, we are the ones who instituted the process on these tags back in 2003. Our floor initiated that, and then it was passed by legislative action in 2004. Currently, in 2016, our body came to us and said, we hold an annual conference and they give us our direction for legislative matters. And in 2016, they asked us to look at potentially instituting this fee. As a group, they voted to cap it at no more than $15. For the last few years, we've had discussions about the need for that money. Last 2019, we came into the decision that yes, we would try and pursue a fee that would go across those tags. And we landed on the $10, so that's where the $10 amount came from. So this is a fee that our membership elected to impose basically on themselves to do this. We do appreciate the support for this amount. We do a free training across this state once a month is how our organization operates. And as a matter of fact, just last month we were in Gove County teaching at Gove City for a fire school there. And it was a very good turnout, actually. I was very pleased with that. That was a good group. So they participate in this training. It's free to them. We use these funds. They'll be supporting that. We also utilize those funds to help support the process of training. That's probably more important because there's materials, the vehicles, the things like that that we utilize to perform those skills with. So with that, I would just like to close and say thank you very much to this committee. We'd greatly appreciate your support on Senate Bill 68, and I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Representative Delberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just wanted to repeat it. I had talked to Mr. Lesker earlier in the day concerning this, but I just want to make sure for me, it's so unusual to have someone coming before us saying we want an additional fee on this. But will 100% of that actually go back to this funding, or is there going to be administrative fees pulled out? You know, what happens to the money?
No, it comes back to the organization. Our organization's the one that fronted, in 2004, when these tags were done, we paid it was like a $10,000 fee you had to pay up front, plus so many tags guaranteed sold. So that's what we covered in, and yes, all those fees do come back to the organization for spending on the training matters.
Okay. And just on a side note, welcome to the committee. I had someone from LAS stop up and say I was supposed to give you a hard time, but I wouldn't do that. I appreciate you being here. So thank you.
One last thing, real quick, if I can, just, please, if you get the opportunity when you go back home to your communities, thank your firefighters, because I can tell you the last 2 weeks, the eastern 2/3 of the state anyway, they have been getting their hands full. And today is another day. There's a large one going right now in Riley County, as a matter of fact. And it's been very much stressful on the volunteer fire service as well as the career fire service state. So we appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I have no other proponents listed. Does anyone else wish to speak as a proponent? I have nobody listed as an opponent or neutral. Does anyone wish to speak on either? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 68 and open the hearing on Senate Bill 69. Revisor Wagner, would you brief us, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, Senate Bill 69 would create a new distinctive license plate, the Love Chloe Foundation license plate. This would be kind of a standard distinctive license plate we've seen quite a few times this session. The organization will set a royalty fee somewhere between $25 and $100. That is an annual fee on top of regular license plate fees that they pay annually. The license plate would be subject to the requirements of KSA 8-1, 141, which are currently design costs up to $20,000, and initial issuance of 500 license plates, which could be changed as of this session, but that bill is still on the Senate side. And then the royalty fees will be going to the Love Chloe Foundation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. First proponent I have is Heidi Faraham Smith, and she's president and co-founder of Love Chloe Foundation. Welcome to the committee.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
All right. So I'm Heidi Faraham Smith, and I'm the founder. Of the Love Chloe Foundation. I want to thank everyone for having us today. We have a few other cancer moms that are here to testify as well, so I appreciate them taking their time out to testify on behalf of this bill. This is a bill that was originally presented last year as Senate Bill 215, and then COVID hit, and so we got put on the back burner, and so we started over, but we passed the Senate unanimously, and now we're on the House side. So I just appreciate you guys hearing our testimony today. So I started the organization in memory of my 7-year-old daughter, Chloe, who battled DIPG, which is diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. She battled for 11 months. She was diagnosed in October of 2007, she was diagnosed in November of 2006 and passed in October of 2007 after 11 months. The words, "Your child has cancer," has changed my life forever. DIPG has a 2-year survival rate of 10% and a 5-year survival rate of less than 1%. The treatment for this cancer is very limited and offers little hope for families. I was determined to make a difference for families by creating the Love Chloe Foundation. Our mission is to provide financial assistance to Kansas families that have a child diagnosed with cancer, support the Monkey in My Chair program that helps kids stay connected with their peers while they are away from school, and also fund groundbreaking research for childhood cancers. We understand that families in Kansas are faced with the burden of traveling many miles to get to children's hospitals for treatment for their child. We are able to offer these families financial assistance during these difficult times. We hope to be able to expand our support for these Kansas families with the proceeds from this license plate. The Monkey in My Chair program is a program that we started in memory of Chloe and her love of monkeys in school. We partner with the Cure Starts Now Foundation and provide this wonderful program to children across the United States. This program provides the family with a large stuffed monkey, and I'm going to show you because I love our monkey. So this is our monkey. We send these monkeys out to kids all over the United States. And this monkey goes to school, it sits in the classroom and takes their place. So that way there's not an empty seat in the classroom. It's a great way to keep kids connected and make the whole experience of a cancer diagnosis less scary for the entire school. The monkey fills the child's seat in the classroom and keeps them connected with their peers. The monkey kit also includes a children's book, a journal, a photo album, a backpack, a teacher companion, and a few other items. The children's book is a way for the teacher to talk about the situation in children's terms. And they're able to ask questions and talk about what might happen to their friend to make it less scary in the situation. Having a classmate can be really an uneasy feeling, and this can create a positive way for them to deal with its benefits and for the entire class. The impact of the Monkey My Chair program is not only seen with the child in their classroom, but it can be a positive impact on the entire school. So the impact of one monkey going into a classroom is seen tenfold when we send these out. We're also able to fund groundbreaking research through the Love Floyd Foundation. We work with other foundations through the DIPG Collaborative to fund research. We put our research dollars together to make a bigger impact and eliminate duplication of funding. We're able to share one medical advisory council to review and recommend grant funding. As a parent of a child who fought childhood cancer, I know how important it is to bring awareness to this horrible disease. I know that by having this distinctive plate, it will bring much needed awareness in Kansas as well as anywhere our supporters travel. The funds brought in from this plate will be designated to our Fueling the Fight initiative that will fund gas cards for Kansas families with a child with cancer. The support for this plate has been amazing. We shared our efforts on this bill on our Facebook page and were able to receive more than 1,100 signatures of support within a few weeks. There are hundreds of families impacted by childhood cancer, and this plate will give them a great way to support the cause.
Questions for Ms. Firearm Smith? Representative Delberdang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm assuming you'd be the right one to ask this to, but I noticed in the bill, it stipulates applying for the annual amount for the plate is not less than $25 nor more than $100. So is there a reason it's not a set fee? Is it considered a donation or what?
That's a standard wording in the bills that are written for the distinctive license plate. Our organization has decided on a $50 fee, and that $50 will go directly to our organization as a donation.
Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions? Seeing none, job well done. Thank you. Next, I have Erica Souter, and she's remote also.
Excuse me, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story today in support of this license plate. Our family's journey with pediatric cancer began when our daughter, Jaden, was diagnosed at the age of 3. She had a very rare form of Wilms tumor, which is a kidney tumor. Hers never presented in her abdomen. Or in her kidney, it was always in her abdomen. But just like RJ, her diagnosis was never typical, and we fought alongside her for 2.5 years. But unfortunately, in 2011, at the age of 5, she earned her angel's wings. Shortly after she passed, my husband and I decided we wanted to give back. We had a great support system around us throughout Jaden's journey, but we noticed so many others that did not. A pediatric cancer diagnosis fundamentally changes your life. I had to close my business so that I could be her full-time care provider. I stayed by her side through months of hospital stays, procedures, appointments, while my husband worked, a lot of times from the hospital room that we were in. Even though my husband had a good job, we had to file bankruptcy due to medical bills and other debt. At this time, we then realized that there were so many other families that could use support during their own child's journey. So in 2012, we founded Baby J's Legacy of Hope. which is a charitable organization for pediatric cancer patients and their families that is based out of Lawrence. We are committed to helping families with things that insurance does not cover, such as rent, utilities, car payments, groceries, clothes, school fees, you name it. We've probably helped with it if insurance doesn't cover it. To date, we have granted almost $200,000 to families across Kansas. When we first started out, we were only assisting families that were being seen at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City. Due to the growth of requests and grants we are receiving, now we have expanded to Topeka, the pediatric facility there at Stormont Vale, as well as Wesley's Children's Hospital in Wichita. When your child is diagnosed with a cancer diagnosis, all of these additional things start to add up. Close to 50% of the families that have a parent or guardian that has had to quit their job to be that child's full-time caretaker. This enormous financial strain can cause a high level of additional stress, which in turn raises the divorce rate and financial burden among these families. Baby J's Legacy of Hope strives to relieve some of the financial and emotional stress to allow the families to focus on their child's treatment and their family during their difficult journey. I wanted to share our story with you today because this license plate program would provide gas cards and other much needed financial support to organizations like ours, as well as other kids and families across Kansas fighting this horrible disease. A large portion of the families we assist are already in financial need, and then they are told their child has been diagnosed with cancer. This program would help us, along with other pediatric cancer organizations in the state, to reach out and wrap these kids and their families in support. In these tough times, and in our country and in our state, we ask that you help provide hope to these families during their child's journey. And as we say at Baby J's Legacy of Hope, because kids get cancer too. Thank you all for your time today, and we appreciate your support.
Questions for Ms. Souter? Seeing none, thank you very much. Committee, we have testimony from Lisa Ward. I don't know if Lisa is on or if this is written testimony only.
I am appearing virtually today. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you briefly. I'm Lisa Ward, the mother of a 22-year-old Jace Ward, and we live in Wamego, Kansas. And this is Jace and his sister, Brooke. Jace is a senior at Kansas State University, and he's also in the battle of his life against DIPG. It's a brain cancer that seeks to kill him. Jace is at physical therapy this afternoon, but I'm honored to speak on behalf of my warrior. Jace is a typical college sophomore at Kansas State University in 2019. He had a little double vision in his left eye in May that year, and a CT scan, MRI, and visit to a neurosurgeon's office changed our lives forever. There's no easy way to say this, his doctor said. You have an aggressive, inoperable, terminal tumor in your brainstem, and it will kill you. And there's no cure, and I can't remove it. And my son looked the doctor squarely in the eye as I trembled. And he said, "I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid I won't have time to make an impact before I do." And with that, the doctor replied, "You have 9 months." So 9 months would end one day before Jace's 21st birthday. But before 9 months had passed, we traveled many miles from our home in Wamego to Kansas City, on to MD Anderson in Texas, New York, San Francisco for a biopsy, Michigan for the first clinical trial, and then many months back and forth to St. Louis Children's Hospital and now Stanford Children's Hospital. Jace is the first patient in the world to be treated with multiple CAR T-cell therapies for DIPG, and his tumor shrinking. He's 22 months past diagnosis. During this time, he also advocated at the NIH and was the keynote speaker at the DIPG briefing in Congress, and he's done many Zoom advocacy calls. The treatment offered to us at the time in Kansas was 6 weeks of radiation, the standard treatment, the same treatment that's been offered for the #1 killer of kids by disease for 60 years. The average child with DIPG is 6 to 10 years old. And there were 6 children in Kansas last year with DIPG. Jace remains, and the others are now angels. So he continues to go to school at Kansas State University, and he continues to work for the Steve Jobs family on a paid internship for cancer policy reform. His impact will be to raise awareness of this leading childhood cancer. There will be 600 or more children in Kansas this year diagnosed with cancer. And each of those families will have travel costs, whether in-state or far across the US. Childhood cancer does not leave a family unscathed. In our case, we've spent over $100,000 out of pocket for travel, Airbnb, and to get him the care he needs. The NCI provides 4% of their overall budget towards cancer research. So even these research trials are funded by families. Parents of children with childhood cancer bear nearly all the cost for their child's treatment on their own. So we know firsthand the financial destruction that's caused battling childhood cancer. We know how quickly money runs out and how much work needs to be mixed. And for that reason, we wholeheartedly support the new Kansas tag to benefit families like ours in a very tangible way. Jace is almost 22 months past diagnosis because we've taken the extra steps and accepted the extra expenses for his treatment. And unless at this point in time, Jace has double vision, he has loss of hearing in one ear, he has difficulty walking and using his right hand. Unless treatment is successful, Jace will lose his speech, his swallow, his voice. His breathing will become difficult and his heart rate will slow before it stops. And all this while knowing everything that's going on while locked in his body. So the adoption of this license plate is 2 very important things for families like ours. First, it shows awareness of childhood cancer and solidarity with those that are in the battle. It highlights the beauty and the innocence of these children. When seen on the road, it'll be a cheer for those in the fight and a positive memory for those who have walked this path. Our cancer families need this. Childhood cancer is extremely lonely. It's a constant weight emotionally, financially, and physically. After the diagnosis, no family is ever the same. Forever, the child, his siblings, and parents live very differently. They live with the loss of childhood and sometimes with the loss of the child. Second, the license plate is an immediate way to financially support Kansas families faced with the inherent burden of travel to treatment to a children's hospital with a specialized care for that cancer treatment. The Love Chloe Foundation has a solid reputation for benefiting Kansas kids with cancer for many years and has very, very little overhead. A gift of $50 in travel funds means a tank of gas or airport parking, a meal. It's so appreciated by families who must absorb these costs out of pocket. More than 1,100 Kansans signed on to support this license plate within a few weeks through just a Facebook post. The Club of Cancer Families is tighter than alumni at a university or a brotherhood of servicemen or firefighters who proudly display their tags. If anyone needs a visual display of understanding, support, and awareness, a reminder that others are in their corner, it's a childhood cancer family. To be able to ease the burden of such families through proceeds of this license plate would be a generous and needed show of support from our state government. Thank you for the opportunity to testify through my tears, and I stand for questions.
Dave Proctor, did you have a question? No, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you did. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. This is Representative Stephen Howe.
Yes.
I just want to take the time a moment to thank Heidi, Erica, and Lisa for their powerful testimony today. I appreciate your courage. What you're doing matters, and you are making a difference. I will gladly support this legislation. It's a small token of what we can do to show our support, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing. And Lisa, please send my best to Jace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Howell. Are there any further comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I really would like to compliment the families that shared their stories with us. It was very emotional, but it also gave a realistic picture of what your life is like, what you go through, and you go through it with love, care, pain, and I think it means a lot. We hear a lot about license plates and how people deserve them. But I think you highlighted the importance of making sure we do all we can for childhood cancer. Because cancer is bad at any stage. But when you look in terms of what your life is like and what you have to look forward to and everything else, it puts maybe a top priority on how quickly you have to work. I want to say, I feel for you, and I send you a huge hug for whatever that is worth. This license plate will make the difference in the lives of so many families. And thank you for taking the time today, all three of you, to come and share your story.
Thank you.
I am there to support you, as I'm sure the rest of our committee is as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Ballard. Well said. I have no other proponents listed. Does anyone else wish to speak as a proponent? Hearing none, I have no opponents, no neutral. Does anyone wish to speak on those? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 69. Committee, I'm going to postpone minutes until tomorrow. We've got another thing that's going to go on in just a few minutes. I would mention to you that tomorrow we will be hearing Senate Bill 67, Senate Bill 95, and Senate Bill 99. With no further business to come before us, we are adjourned.